Hi, it's Ray Grant. It is Sunday, September 29th, 2024. It is 11:01 a.m. here in Pittsburgh. This is unfortunately the 55th anniversary of the death of Zodiac killer victim Cecilia Shepard. I'm sorry about that. Um, but essentially, people wonder what's my agenda for this series. My agenda is basically following the paragraphs of the Crackpot files. It's like the last. I don't even remember what the what the last episode was on, but the last episode was the previous paragraph, and now I'm on this paragraph of the. I'm just going down the article paragraph by paragraph and dealing with what Butterfield says. So let's get to the current paragraph here. Grant believes that the number 180 or 180 degrees somehow revealed the Zodiac's identity. Grant wrote, "This is why the Zodiac reviews The Exorcist in the first place. The girl in the film, played by Linda Blair, has two interesting powers. She can project vomit through the air, which might come in handy, and she can rotate her head 180 degrees. Grant apparently did not watch the film, or he would know that Linda Blair's head actually rotates 360 degrees. If her head rotated only 180 degrees, her head would have been backwards during the rest of the film." I will be very happy to reveal to everyone that I have never watched The Exorcist. Okay, I've seen snippets of the movie, but I have never watched the entire movie all the way through. I'm a lapsed Roman Catholic. I really don't have any interest in that film. If you want to see a film, what I think is a great film that is also about like supernatural things and spells and so forth, I strongly recommend Warlock with the late Julian Sands, which used to run. They used to show it on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's a great movie. And maybe I'll be talking about that at some point in the not too distant future. As far as, I hate to keep doing this and showing somebody up, but you know, why not? Let's go to. This is the Wikipedia page, the plot section of the Wikipedia page for the Exorcist film, and I'm going to read what it says about what happens in the scene that we just talked about. Well, events leading up to the scene that we just talked about, and then that scene. Reagan's personality becomes violent. Medical tests find no physical cause. During a house call, Reagan exhibits abnormal strength. One night, Chris finds the house empty except for a sleeping Reagan. Dennings is found dead at the bottom of a set of public stairs that begin beneath Reagan's window. Detective William Kinderman questions Karras, confiding that Dennings' head was turned backwards. Reagan's body becomes covered with sores. Kinderman tells Chris that the only plausible explanation for Denning's death is that he was pushed from Reagan's window. As Kinderman leaves, Reagan has another violent fit, stabbing her vagina with a crucifix and turning her head backwards. Okay? Does not say that her head spins. It said her head is turned backwards. Okay? So the point I was trying to make, and I was at least aware of those things when I originally wrote that passage in I guess I wrote it in my 1990 book. It was on my website in 2010. Okay, is that what happens in the film is that what is shocking to people in the film is that the character has the ability to turn her head directly backwards. Now, eventually, later in the film, she does spin her head all the way. But the thing that scares the hell out of people is this idea. And remember, it's 1973, so it's a long time before some of the CGI that you've seen in movies lately, where basically they can do anything with anything, and pretty much anything can happen, you know. But the um, the point I'm trying to make here is the point I was trying to make on my website is this idea. Now, before I get to that, I will point out one of the reasons that they chose to, the Zodiacs chose to review The Exorcist. And first of all, it had just come out in January of 1974. And one reason for it is that Linda Blair and Michael O'Hare have the same birthdays. I was talking about birthdays, I think, in the last video. They were both born on January 22nd, so that's one connection. But the main reason for reviewing The Exorcist is that 180 degrees is a geometric metaphor for a secret identity. Why? Because somebody who has a secret identity has a face that is pointing away from you. There is a god in Roman mythology. His name is Janus, and Janus has two faces. He has one that faces forward. He has a face that faces directly backwards. In other words, 180 degrees away from you, and you can't see that face when his normal face is talking to you. So that is also one reason that the Exorcist letter is sent in January. It is to evoke the Roman god Janus, okay, and this idea of the Zodiac killer being two-faced. Now, one of the things we see, I'm thrilled that I finally get to use these big dry erase boards, because I've had them for a while, but they're too big to really use them very much. Okay, we're all familiar with this idea of a secret identity. Okay, we have in the DC universe, in these at least in the Silver Age of the DC, as you might guess, I'm a Silver Ager. I was reading DC Comics in the early 1960s. So, long before Mike Butterfield was born, by the way. So what you have here is, you have the superhero identity and his secret identity, his civilian identity. So for Superman, that's Clark Kent. For Batman, it's Bruce Wayne. For The Flash, it's Barry Allen. For Green Lantern, it was Hal Jordan. No, by the way, the Golden Agers had different secret identities. I'm aware of Clark Kent was the same in both, but I think Green Lantern had a different, Green Lantern and Flash both had different secret identities back in the Golden Age. That was back in the 1940s, but Silver Age, it was Barry Allen, Hal Jordan. And just in case you're from the Marvel Universe, you have Spider-Man, and his secret identity was Peter Parker. Okay? So, in other words, the secret identity was the face that was pointing away from you, the one that you couldn't see. And conversely, if you were a civilian, you happened to be talking to Hal Jordan, or you were talking to Barry Allen, you couldn't see that they were the Flash or Green Lantern, because that face was pointed away from you. And you saw that, for example, you see this idea all the time. To cite another example, in Disney, you had Miley Cyrus. I forget what her name was on the. I didn't watch the TV show, but it was Miley something or other. And then she was a pop star because she put on a blonde wig, and when she put the blonde wig on, she was Hannah Montana. Okay, so it's basically the same idea. However, as you might have guessed, there's a dark side to this idea. And what it is serial killers, because serial killers also have a secret identity. Okay, so for example, you have Seattle Ted was Ted Bundy. You have the Green River Killer was Gary Ridgway. You have Son of Sam turned out to be David Berkowitz. You have BTK turned out to be Dennis Rader. And you have GSK through the wonders of modern science was found to be Joseph James D'Angelo. Okay? And maybe an extreme example of that would be Bill Cosby, because when you watched Cosby on TV or you listened to his comedy albums, he was this very positive figure. In other words, sometimes you have a superhero who has a secret identity. Sometimes you have a serial killer who has a secret identity. In the case of Bill Cosby and many other people, you have one identity which is very positive. In Cosby doing his comedy shows and being on I Spy and doing the Cosby Show. At the same time, more than 60 women have identified him as a serial rapist. Okay, so there's his bright side and his dark side. So this is why I say that 180 degrees is a geometric metaphor. And when you start with the Zodiac name, as I've demonstrated, Zodiac, if you start with the most common constant in geometry, which is pi, and you start with the whole number, first 7 letters, 3.1415926, that converts by alphabet numbers to an anagram for Zodiac. Okay, so in other words, when the Zodiac killer says this is Zodiac speaking, what he is actually saying is this is geometry speaking. So what we're actually dealing with, for the most part, is the creation of geometric designs on the map of the planet, and 180 degrees is a geometric metaphor. And we see this directly in the case, let me see, am I going with this next? No. I'll go with the mailings. If you look at the whole card, October 5th, 1970, you will see that the card is punched with a hole puncher, and 13 holes were created in the card. Okay. Now, if we fast forward to the Sierra Club card, to the Lake Tahoe card, however you want to identify it, you notice that there is a hole punched in the card. And as I pointed out, when I talked to Captain Roy Conway of Vallejo PD back in the fall of 1991, Roy Conway told me that several police agencies spent a lot of time trying to figure out where the hole in the punch card was vis-a-vis the Forest Pines condominium. Okay, they knew that what was depicted on the card was the Forest Pines condo, so they were trying to locate exactly where that punch card was. Now, I've been criticized for taking this kind of like cryptographic and mathematical view of the case, but here's an example where that's exactly what the police did. And the police assumed that Donna Lass's body was buried wherever that punched hole was. They never actually found her body. So, but if you look at the Sierra Club card and you look at the top of the card, what you will see is that the author of the card has taken his hole puncher and punched these semicircles along the top of the card. Now, what does this mean exactly? And this is what it means. If I can, let me see if I can do this. what you have then is you have geometrically, let me see if I can get this under line. You have a straight line or a straight edge, which is to say the edge of the card, and that equals 180 degrees. A semicircle, he's replacing the edge of the card, the straight line, with a semicircle. And a semicircle is also 180 degrees. And guess what? A triangle, which was the ultimate destination for the Zodiac project, straight line 180 degrees. He's replacing one thing of 180 degrees by punching those semicircles on the edge of the card. He's replacing one thing which is 180 degrees with a second thing that is 180 degrees. And the ultimate goal of the Zodiac project was the terminus triangle, and a triangle consists of three angles which add up to 180 degrees every single time. Okay, so the progression in the Zodiac case is as follows. It's, if you can imagine, this is the California coastline down here. Mike Butterfield's a better artist than I am, to say the least, okay? You have the point in Riverside. You have the angle, the radiant angle in the San Francisco Bay Area, Mount Diablo. This is Cherry and Washington Cherry Streets. These are the two sites in Vallejo here. So you have a point, angle, and then you have the clock face in Lake Tahoe. The California-Nevada border represent a clock time of 12:22, which is the same as the watch time in Riverside. And then 12:22 will show up in the triangle in Greater Boston, the terminus triangle. So you go, the sequence is point, angle, triangle. And why do they end up in a triangle? Because they are, instead of coming full circle, a full circle is 360 degrees. They are coming full triangle, which is 180 degrees. In other words, when they get to the triangle, the 180 degrees will be turned completely backwards so that you are now facing the other face. You're now, when you were facing the Zodiac before, you are now facing Michael O'Hare. And just like the character in the movie, you're looking at somebody whose face is now backwards, but staring directly at you. And that is done, is kind of the exclamation point for the events of for the Terminus event, where they were going to blow up the lounge in the room 929, the MIT Tower, and the stage A shooting, a sniper event from the rooftop of the Liberty Mutual building. And the third angle would be the site of the burial of Joan Webster's body, which was at Neeland Street and I-93. Okay, now it's important to realize when I'm saying all this, and I'm talking about an idea like this, that the reason he's doing all of this is to make the point. Yes, it's a puzzle, But additionally, it is to make the point that 180 degrees is another way of saying secret identity. It's a geometric metaphor, okay? And if you read what Mike Butterfield says, I'm going to go to, let's see if we, okay, let's go to, all I need to do is type in Ray Grant Zodiac. It takes me right to the Crackpot files. It's the first link, okay? So here's what Butterfield says. Most observers will immediately note that the author's theories and claims are convoluted, ridiculous, and borderline delusional. Okay? Well, is this idea, here's the question. Is this idea convoluted? Yes, it's more convoluted than your average true crime case. Okay, I will give you that. However, remember that we are dealing, there goes my cat. We are behind the scenes. All right. I think she's happy where she is now, so we'll leave her alone. Yes, it's convoluted, but you're dealing with serial killers, or a serial killer who was sending ciphers to the newspapers, who is staging things like the Channel 7 show, okay? And it's about as convoluted a serial case as there is. It is the single most complex serial case that there ever has been. And the reason for that is pretty much every other serial case, if you're talking about the Green River case, yes, you had more victims, but it's essentially a matter of the killer doing the same thing over and over again. Even with Ted Bundy, Bundy varied himself a little bit. There was some variation in the way, not very much, but there was some variation in the way Bundy operated. But essentially, you're having repetition. You're not having that at all in the Zodiac case. As Pierre Boudou pointed out, the two Vallejo murders, the two Vallejo murder events, Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs Park, were actually different modus operandi, except that there was a couple, but the modus operandi was actually different for those two, okay? So, yes, it is more convoluted. Now, here's the funny thing. If you look at Dave Aranchek's solution for Z340, which, as I said in the last video, that is a correct solution cryptographically, but it's not what the point of Z340 was, okay? And the point of Z340 isn't that convoluted. But if you look at Dave's solution, when he came out with that, of course, Mike Butterfield was, dancing down the street and saying, wow, look at what Dave Aranchek did, okay? Well, would it be fair to say that Dave's solution to Z340, which pretty much everyone in the online community accepts, with a couple of who's the guy who doesn't? Nicodemus 01 on Tom's board doesn't accept it, but pretty much everyone else does, myself included. Okay, but would it be fair to say that that solution is convoluted? Yes. Okay. To get to that solution, what do you have to do? You have to first change the sequence of the symbols and do a transposition, which involves a knight's move. Trust me, if the day before Dave Aranchek came out with that solution, I came out with that exact solution, Mike Butterfield would have jumped all over it. He would have said, what's this, like some kind of knight's move? Is this guy nuts? He's delusional, obviously, okay? But they like Dave, they don't like me. So what can I say? It's just the way things have worked out. That's all, okay? But Dave's solution is convoluted, okay? To get to his solution, you have to do the transposition. Then you have to, every transposition you get, you have to send through a computer program, AZ Decrypto, okay, or AZ Decrypt, and then look at the numbers for each one of those and say, okay, this one has a better conversion rate, so let's go with that. And then finally, basically, because you were lucky, he got one that had a high enough number, and when he hit the crib button, it translated into something that was readable. Now, the second section of it wasn't that readable, but he was able to tweak it a little bit. And he was able to get what most people accept, myself included again. And I'm not a cryptographer, so what my approval doesn't really mean anything. But people will accept as the solution to the cryptographic solution to Z340. Now, what I would say in response to that is, yes, it's the cryptographic solution. The problem is it doesn't tell you anything. You don't know anything more after Dave has gone to all that trouble than you knew before, okay? So maybe it's not really the solution. Maybe you're being forced to jump backwards through flaming hoops just for the amusement of the Zodiac killers. Has that occurred to you? Okay, apparently not. But the point is, when that solution came out, Mike Butterfield didn't say it was convoluted, and he didn't say that Dave was delusional. What I'm suggesting here is a lot less convoluted than Dave's solution to Z340. What I'm saying is that the reason, first of all, what he's evoking by doing his review of The Exorcist is the fact, and again, I'm assuming that Mike Butterfield's parents didn't allow him to watch The Exorcist when he was 5 years old. Okay, so I was in my early 20s. I was already working in the downtown office of the Pittsburgh Post Office on Grant Street, by the way. And that was the talk of the office for a week or two, which is, hey, have you seen The Exorcist? Wow, man, I've never seen anything like that. But basically what people were talking about was the ability of the character to turn its head backwards. Okay, that was what was scary. Okay, this is another example of Zodiac hobbyists not having been alive when something happened and making assumptions about it that they shouldn't make, or in some instances not making assumptions that they should make. Okay, what people found scary about it, and again, I haven't seen the movie. I've just, through the magic of YouTube, I can go on there and look at a few scenes in it, okay, and make the points I'm making. But what people found scary was this idea of someone being able to turn his head backwards, okay, not spin his head, although spinning your head is also pretty scary. So, I thought it would take longer to make this point. Maybe it isn't. It hasn't. How many? Where am I here? I'm at about half an hour. Okay. Well, I got to the point a lot sooner for some reason today than I was expecting. Was there something else I needed to talk about? The 180, the straight line, the what was the point of The Exorcist? Yeah, I mean, he also includes in that same letter the expression of, I guess I can. He also includes in that letter this side. Well, I don't need to do this because I'm using iMovie, so just I won't even waste your time with it. he also includes this expression of me 37, SFPD 0. Okay. Um, so I think that's yeah, me 37. I suspect that the Zodiac killers at some point thought that the public or the police or the public or bright people out there in the public would look at what he was doing and and figure out what they were getting at, but they never actually did. Is this okay? This is the blue. Here's the problem. You may ask yourself this question: what is the problem with the Zodiac case, and why haven't people been able to figure it out? Well, it's mainly this, and I made this point before, but I'll make it again. Okay. I don't know if I want to do it that way. Let me see if I can. Okay, you have. There's this wide gulf between these two communities. And basically, what it does is it keeps the Zodiac case from ever being solved. Okay? Because what you have is you have people, obviously, look, there are a lot of people who are interested in conceptual art. Okay? How do we know that? We know that because Christo was able to take over Central Park back in February of 2005 and put up his gates, and New York City put up with it for a couple of weeks, and that was how long that the project was intended to last. Okay, so you have people who are interested in conceptual art. Okay, and then you have pretty much everybody on Zodiac killer message boards who are interested in true crime, and usually what you see is the Zodiac is part of like the true crime universe. Okay, the problem is that people who are interested in true crime, for the most part, aren't interested at all in conceptual art and don't even know what it is. Okay, and people who are interested in conceptual art don't have any interest in true crime. Okay, so essentially what you have, Michael O'Hare and Gareth Penn are probably watching, if they're watching this video, they're probably sitting in their easy chairs in their living room, um, um, secure in the knowledge that it doesn't matter what Ray Grant does. Ray Grant can keep up his campaign until he's blue in the face, and that divide is going to separate them from the law. Okay, they're never going to have to face retribution for what they did, because your average true crime person, and that includes police agencies, it includes administrators, it includes people in high positions. They either don't understand conceptual art. If they do understand conceptual art, they don't see any connection between conceptual art and true crime. Okay, although as I pointed out, what happens in a lot of cases now. I showed this group of people the person I did not add to this was Ted Kaczynski. And Kaczynski is an example of somebody who straddled those two areas. On the one hand, he was a world-class mathematician. On the other hand, he was a serial killer. And one could argue, it's been argued that Ted Kaczynski really was not a domestic terrorist. In other words, there wasn't any kind of overall plan behind his bombings. He basically did them to get even with the world, and because he was angry. And it was more that than, although he put out his manifesto and everything, it had more to do with what his urges were than any kind of logical campaign. But that's what the idea is, and as far as I can tell, for the most part, the Zodiacs were pretty much true. Michael O'Hare is not as bright a person as Ted Kaczynski, because Ted Kaczynski was supposedly a mathematician. His PhD thesis would be understood by maybe a dozen people in the entire world. Okay, Michael O'Hare is not quite on that level. He's on a level obviously above me, but he's not quite on Kaczynski's level. Of course, do you want to be Kaczynski? That's the question. But 180 is a geometric metaphor. This isn't rocket science, okay? It's not brain surgery, okay? It's a little bit more convoluted than your average true crime case. On the other hand, as I said, the Dave Aranchek solution to Z340 is pretty convoluted, okay? So it sometimes it is, as often happens in the case of human interactions, it really comes down to personal politics and who people like and who they don't like, and so forth. In the meantime, what I'm doing is I'm going, as I said at the beginning, I'm like Marlon Brando in Tea House of the August Moon. What I say at the beginning of the movie, I say at the end of the movie, okay? Which is that all I'm doing is going down the article of the Crackpot files, and I will show. I'm going to show later on where Michael O'Hare actually makes a reference to that article, where he actually talks about that article. I will touch on that in a future video. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. Okay, but I'm a little worried about what the next paragraph might be. Maybe I'm gonna have to go to like video backup again, like I've done in the last two. It's a little bit it's a little bit worrisome here that it's these don't seem like really serious points, but there are people, when they talk about me, what they will do is they'll say, well, I just read Mike Butterfield's Crackpot files, and, he pretty much, disposes with Ray Grant. Really? Okay. Well, we'll see where we end up at the end, okay? In the meantime, I thank everybody for their attention. I'm getting a few more views now, and by the way, thanks to Ned DeHaan for continually mentioning my video series. I really appreciate it. And on Ned's channel, by the way, I'm going to do a recommendation here. Let me see. I was driving on the highway on, darn it, come on. All right, let's go to Black Box Online Radio. Oh, Ned just did a video on DB Cooper with Darren, let me see here, Darren Schaefer, which was really good. I'm going to see if I can get myself on Darren's podcast. But I recommend both the Black Box Online video with Darren Schaefer, and then if you go to Darren Schaefer's podcast, he, oddly enough, he does a separate interview with Ned DeHaan, which is also very good. So I recommend those two, and as always, I recommend Ned's channel, and I appreciate Ned Ned giving me the free publicity all these years. And so that's it for today, and we will move on. And I have no idea what the next paragraph says, but I'm sure we'll get to it in the next video. All right, thanks very much. and that's it.